to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
He hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from high atop the 18th fairway from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Brought to you by our great friends from Andy Moore Honda, the #1 Honda dealer around. And you can just go to andymoorehonda.com for the greatest in new and used vehicles and service. No one better take care of you. Our man Rish. Go see Rish Nairn and his guys. And Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club and their network of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. If you're in and around here or coming down for a game, make sure you stop in and visit the myriad of restaurants, whether it's Southern Stone, Courtroom Sports Grill, great places like BB's Market, where you have the greatest in-house made products, greatest meats you're going to find. They have a full-size bakery. They can do whatever. They can roast a pig for you. I mean, a whole pig. It's crazy. But lots to get to on the program today. Another great one. Mike DeCourcy will be joining us. Chronic Hoosier will join us. And we've got Dustin Schutte with us already. We'll let's see. We may hear from Mike Woodson and those guys. But we got plenty to talk about. College basketball last night. And in addition to that, Trace Jackson-Davis, Mackenzie Holmes. Both are in the top 20 of the John Wooden list. Hello, Dustin Schutte, by the way. Didn't say hello.
Hello, good morning. Can I start this off with a little story because it's been aggravating to me.
Here's a story of a lovely lady.
So every morning at about 5:30 a.m., there's a stupid ass bird that sits on a tree branch outside my window and chirps the most annoying song. And it happens for an hour. It wakes me up at 5:30 in the morning every damn day. Now,
maybe it's a love song and you don't know it.
It could be, but it's not working if that's what it's attempting to do. So 5:30 a.m., not that bad, but I work until midnight a lot of nights. So it's getting very aggravating. And I just needed to share that. I needed to vent this morning because I'm tired of this bird just going about his business.
Does he sit on the same branch?
Yes.
Cut the branch down.
I can't reach it. It's far enough away where
get
I
a
can't
ladder.
do anything. Maybe I could get a slingshot and hit it with a pebble or something. I could do that.
Earplugs.
Well, I might invest in earplugs. But it's 5:30 every morning until 6:30, and then once I'm awake, I'm awake. I'm not going back to sleep. I can't take a nap. It's just I'm up for the day. So I needed to vent my frustration this morning because it's been going on for the past week and a half.
Sounds fun. Hello to everybody for hitting us up on early and often on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. We appreciate you. Fred, of course, Howie, Kevin, Sean, Carl's on as well. Rudy, Shimmatori 66, Michael the Music Man, Mike, Philip. Yeah, we got all kinds of stuff to talk about last night. That Texas Tech, I started to watch that game. I'm like, why? They're last place in the Big 12 and playing a first place team. And I turned it over. Damn it. They came back from 23 points down to beat them on top of it. Now, you want to talk about the best conference without question in all of college basketball? It's the Big 12. Right. There's no discussion, people. I think I ran these numbers the other day. They have 7 teams in the top 25 of the net rankings.
That's pretty good.
7.
Yep.
The Big 10 has 9 in the top 42.
Top 42. I think.
Well, it's actually the last 2 teams. They have 7 that are probably they're much higher. It's the last 2. Maryland's 42nd.
Well, and it's impressive too because the Big 12 is a 10-team league. So you're 70%. I mean, I know 9 out of 14 is pretty good in the top 42, but to have 70% of your league in the top 25 of the net rankings,
So it's unbelievable.
that's unheard of. Yeah.
That's you want to talk about some fun basketball to watch? It's the Big 12. Well, I mean, you got the last place team that were down 23 points to the number 1 team, and they came back and won. Man, I wish I would watch it.
Did you see that final? Did you see the final possession from Iowa State?
No, I did not.
Oh God, it was terrible. It was one of the worst final. I don't remember how much time exactly was left, but maybe 20 seconds. It was one of the worst 20-second possessions in the history of basketball. I mean, it was awful.
Why?
They had 3. They took. I think it was 3 shots they had. All from. There was no offensive plan. They shot long threes. They airballed all of them. I mean, it was chaos, pure chaos.
Chaos. That was, let's see. Louisville, they're in big trouble. God, their season has been in the toilet for a while. Indiana tonight, of course, traveling to College Park, Maryland to take on the Turtles, the Terrapins. And I just see, what was this comment I just saw? Sean says, hello from Muncie. Tonight will prove if this Indiana team has turned a corner, a trap game almost by definition. A team that has matured and a staff that's grown won't allow this to be a loss. Sean?
I don't know if I agree with that.
I absolutely do not agree with it. I absolutely disagree with you, my friend. And it's not. It's because of one thing. For one thing, do you know who the only team that has gone into College Park and come out with a win this entire season, Sean? UCLA. They've lost 1 game at home this year, and it's been to UCLA.
So
I'm not saying Indiana cannot win this game,
right?
But all right, I'll pull the spread up. I'm gonna bet you they're not favored to win this game.
I don't know. This is why I would disagree. I understand his point. So let me make that clear. I understand where you're coming from because this is a game on paper that Indiana should win, especially the way they've played. I think Indiana has already turned that corner. We've seen it over the last 5 games. I think that they've turned that corner already because of the way they're playing defensively. You're not gonna play every single game like that, right? So I'm not gonna, if they are to drop this a road game, I'm not gonna look too much into it in terms. I mean, if they play terrible and have no energy, that's one thing. But if they're competitive, if they play the way they've been playing these past 5 games, then I think the corner has already been turned. I'm not going to invest too much into it. He does bring up a good point though. It is a trap game. You're coming off of
trap. It's not a trap game. This is not a trap game.
It is a trap game. Yeah,
a trap game is a trap game's a game you're supposed to win.
I think Indiana should win. I think they're a better team than
No,
Maryland.
they should not. They are a better team than Maryland.
Right.
I agree that they're a better team, but that does not they're going into a place. No, you shouldn't. You're going into a place that nobody but UCLA has won. You're not going to be expected to win. Now, if you do win, I think that is you've gone above and beyond. But
to be fair, Maryland is favored by 3 in this game.
There we go. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Hold on. Now, here's what I'm going to hitting it. All right.
I'm telling you.
I'm not saying Maryland's a bad team. I'm not.
They're not. I'm not either. You're missing the point.
No,
they're 10-1 at home, man. They don't lose at home. They do not lose at home.
I'm going.
That's
through the
why
schedule.
Las Vegas has made them, whatever it is, the favorite. Those guys know. Now, I agree with you that Indiana can win this game. I'm not saying they can't. But I'm not saying it's the word should.
What do you mean, should?
Yeah, it's your use of the word that they should win this game. I don't think that they should win the game.
Okay,
because they're not favored. I don't expect them to win. They're going into a place where nobody has won but one team. But I don't think that they can't win.
So would you consider it a toss-up game? 50-50. Flip of a coin.
No, I'd give you a 49-51 at best.
All right. So here
I'm going an odds standpoint.
I want to know here. So here's what I'm going. This is what I'm doing. Maryland's home wins dating back to November. include Niagara,
Yeah,
Western Carolina,
start at the top, the other.
St.
I'd go
Louis,
the other end.
Miami,
I'd go to the other end.
Coppin State,
Miami,
Illinois, St. Peter's, UMBC, Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nebraska. There you go. So, I mean, it's not like, look at those teams. It's not
I get it. I get it.
I'm not.
None of those,
none of
teams. None of those teams are better than Indiana. I will give you that.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Maybe Schutte is a little strong. I think Indiana
needs to win this game.
I don't think they need to, though.
Well, no. Well, let me finish. I think they need to win it from a standpoint of maintaining the level of play that they're playing right now. Mentally, that's it. What's in their mind? When we see this team change and play differently and play better, and the other night they kind of it was a slow start to that, but then they kicked into gear and they start. I just think that they can win at Maryland without question.
Right.
They showed that when they went to Illinois. I would have thought Illinois, if this was a month ago and you said, all right, we've got these two games coming up at Illinois and at Maryland, which one, if you said Indiana was absolutely going to lose, which one would it be? I would have picked Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you. I would have easily picked Illinois.
Well,
that was nothing for them. Yeah, and they went in there and just took care of business. I'm not saying Indiana can't go into College Park and take care of business. If they play like they've been playing, they're going to be a tough game. It's going to be awfully tough for Maryland. But there's a reason why Maryland is 10-1 at home. Look at all home records. Home records are what they are for a reason. It's just a little bit more difficult to play away from home. And that adds a little bit to it. Now, whether they do or not, I'm not saying they can't. So don't think that I'm like, nope, there ain't no way. That's not it at all. I'm not expecting the win. But I think if they do get this win, then that does more than says that they've turned a corner. It says that they've grown up. They have really, really matured, because winning at a place where people have not won very well, winning on the road, winning a 6th game in a row, all of that stuff in aggregate shows unbelievable maturity to me.
I agree with that. Here's an interesting question posed by Philip. If Indiana goes 1-1 this week, which game matters most?
What, are you kidding me? Are you talking about between Maryland and Purdue?
Yeah.
I don't. All right. I don't see that. I don't see that question. It's not.
I have a good answer for it. I think
it's not a good question
too.
It is a good question.
I know why the answer is Purdue, because if you know you're going to win both of them, you're taking a win away from the team that's ahead of you in the Big Ten race if you beat Purdue.
Yep.
Hey,
that's a good point.
Take the name of the school out. They're the number 1 ranked team in the country. Damn it! Who do you think is going to be the biggest win?
I mean, yeah, I guess that makes it simple, but
they're the number 1 team in the Big Ten Conference. They're the number 1 team in the entire United States. They were a unanimous selection. You beat the unanimous number 1. That is going to go much further for you at the end of the season, when those guys are sitting in a room deciding who's going where.
Here's devil's advocate, though, because of what Don Fisher said yesterday. It's not impossible to catch Purdue. It's not impossible to think Purdue could slip up, lose a few games. We've seen them play close a couple times, and maybe could have lost a few games. But if you beat Maryland, then you stay in that hunt for a top 4 seed in the Big Ten tournament. So does that make that game more important?
No, because if you beat Purdue, why is that not?
Because then Maryland has a tiebreak. Well, they've only played. This will be their first game. They have the tiebreak.
Maryland's going to lose, and Maryland's going to lose more games than Purdue.
That's not what I'm
so
talking
therefore,
about.
they're not. You don't have to worry about a tiebreaker. Indiana is going to continue to win more. The tiebreaker was not going to come in.
But what happens if? Okay, what happens if Indiana goes 0-2 this week? See, that's a problem. I think it's an interesting question.
It is a great question. That's why we have it here. It's the topic of discussion, baby. It's battles. Love it. Hey, we got lots more coming up on the program today. Glad to have you along. Mike DeCourcy, our good friend from the Big Ten Network and Sporting News, will be along with us. We'll talk about that more. We'll talk about the Big Ten and the Big Ten race and all of that. Purdue was the first unanimous selection for number 1 this week, I believe, this year. Chronic Hoosier along on the schedule today as well. Lots more coming up. Looking forward to it. Can't thank you guys enough for being here and being along. Shout out to Chef JD. Hope things are going well over at BB's today, where I wish I was, having a nice lunch sandwich. Welcome aboard, everybody, at WJOB as well, up in the region. Hope everybody's doing well up there. And our peeps down, of course, on the river in Evansville on the ref and everywhere else. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether
Damn it.
All right.
Damn.
Damning it.
I just remembered something.
Oh.
There you go. He's reminding you, boy, early bird gets the worm.
Okay, well, I don't work till 4, so there are no worms to be had. It's like I said, it's not that big of an issue when I work in the morning. I don't care. But when I work till midnight and I get up at 5:30.
And by the way, do you know what other day you're going to join us this week?
It's not a trap game, guys. This is not a trap game. A trap game is one that you're supposed to win.
It's Purdue. Dumb question. I think tomorrow, John.
Thank you, Bradley.
So you'll come on tomorrow and then be off Thursday, Friday from us. Okay.
Yeah, because I've got to do early morning shift.
We can
on
make
Thursday.
that. We can make that stuff work.
It's just going to be So
we can make that work. I mean, do it like that. That's workable.
I have no problem with that. It's just going to be week. You literally won't know until the week before. So,
but that's why,
always check it.
Like what we just had. Not having that.
Trust me, I love
that. It's like
I'll do it as much as I can. The old schedule was so accommodating. I mean, I didn't get to do the last 20 minutes, but that was fine.
You can still come on every day.
You should tell them they get a free ad. Seriously,
that'd be pretty an interesting little deal right there if they said,
I'm not
"Hey,
kidding.
let me do this every day."
Because now I've got to, and I have to remember. Did you make the switch?
Huh? Personally, did I make it?
Okay, so you're still. Are you?
We should probably talk about this off air.
Yeah, that's why I was like sitting there trying to think
Formulate
about how
the
to
question.
code it. We have got to find a way to talk because John and soon we're going to have to. Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't know that we'll have to, but we can still try to figure out a way to do what you're talking about.
But we need to because of what I talked about earlier. If you remember. Why?
I don't think I do, but we can figure something out. I wonder where Mike is.
Huh?
I said, I wonder where Mike is. Oh, here he
He's
comes.
right there.
There
That's
he
right.
is.
All right.
He's right on.
Seconds.
He's right on the spot. Got his USA.
There we go.
That's right.
Team USA apparel on, baby. We're ready to roll.
I'm upset he's not wearing any Pacers gear today.
Can we hear you, Mike? We go ahead and I just want to make sure we got your volume level.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, we got you.
I can already
Here
hear
we
him.
go.
Yep. 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Tuesday. It is the last day of January already. I cannot believe that, but I am as happy as I can be because that means we're one day closer to March and spring. Speaking of spring and happiness, Mike DeCourcy joins us from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network. How are you, Michael?
I am well, Jim. How are you?
Doing fine. Got Dustin Schutte, of course, with us as often as possible.
Dustin looks like he's ready to leave us like in any second now. He's got those golf clubs there, and he's like, get me out of here. I don't want to listen to DeCourcy. I want to hit balls.
Hey,
he's like that. He'll do that, too.
I will. I'll sneak out. But, Mike, the clubs do more good in the house than they do on the actual golf course. So that's the problem I run into.
You know what? Everybody always asks me, what's your handicap? And I'm like, I just start counting the number of clubs in my bag. It comes out to 14. I'm like, I believe it's a 14. Thank you very much. But yeah, hello, welcome aboard, man. A lot's going on. It is this is the pinnacle of the season. Not the pinnacle, of course, but the tournament is. But I mean, we're in the middle of the meat, and
yes.
You can look back, and there's enough body of work to look back on. You can look forward at the excitement that's coming ahead, which is plenty. Whether you're talking about the Big Ten or the Big 12, man, some fun games that are going to happen that have already happened. Plus we talk about the NFL, man. There's all kinds of stuff going on there with the Bengals and all that. But last night in the Big 12, I started to watch the Texas Tech game, and I'm like, they suck. They're going to kill them. And damn, they go down by 23, come back and win that game against the number one team in the Big 12. And I'm like going, all right, there you go. You want to talk about parity in the best conference in college basketball? My God, the last place team comes back from 23 points down on the number one team. Just fun to watch.
Amazing. I had someone, one of the other bracket people I follow on Twitter, trying to sell me Iowa State as a 1 seed just last week, and it's not been a good week since then. That is life in the Big 12. It's an amazing conference this season. It really is. And I had somewhat similar experience. I was working on the bracket in the evening, and so I DVR'd the Virginia game and DVR'd the Texas Baylor game, and I went to see if I wanted to click on the Iowa State game, and they were up like 26 or something, and it was the first half, and I'm like, okay, well, not going to need to see this, and I guess I should have just pushed the button anyway, because what did I have to lose? But holy cow! I mean, you don't see many comebacks like that, and I think it's been really hard for Texas Tech because they are a quality basketball team. Look, I don't know that they're NCAA tournament good if they're in a different league, but I know that what the Big 12 is too good for them. Just like if they're in the ACC, they're probably at least in the hunt. And if, I think they'd struggle in the Big 10 as well, but I think they could win some games, but they just can't find any breathing room in the Big 12. And so there they are sitting down there. I think when yesterday began, they were 0-8. And now they got a chance to feel like what it's like to win a Big 12 game. And I believe, if I remember correctly, they won their SEC Challenge game too. So they're on a 2-game winning streak and feeling what it's like to be successful for the first time in a long time.
Well, let me give you folks, just Dustin, to give everybody an understanding of how difficult the Big 12 is. Kansas probably I don't know, on the number one line at some point this season.
Oh yeah, they were so close to 1 overall. I think some would have had them 1 overall.
So there's a team that I've seen that was awesome to see, that now you have as a 5 seed. Wait, who has
them as a 5 seed? You're looking at the wrong bracket.
Now look, it says bracketology with Mike, unless this was old. It says bracketology with Mike DeCourcy.
No, I have not had him off the. No, I haven't had him lower than a 3 yet this year.
Oh boy.
What if this is old?
Look at Jim with egg on his face right here.
Well, no, I'm just in a bracketology. DeCourcy says Big Ten has set the rule. The NCAA tournament. This may be an old one. It may have popped up an old one for some reason.
I believe that is an old one. Yes.
It was the first one listed under Mike DeCourcy bracketology.
Oh boy. Here we go.
Blame it on the computer.
What I was going to say, or what I was going to ask, Mike, was we're late into the season, and every team in the Big 12 overall has a winning record. And I'm sure maybe that's happened for a conference before, and it probably helps that there's only 10 teams in the league. But have you ever seen anything quite like that where we talk about the Big 10 having tough games night in, night out, but legitimately in the Big 12, anybody can beat anybody, and everybody's got a winning record. I don't know if I recall a league where there's been every team is finished with a winning record. There's still a long way to go, but even at this point in the season, it's kind of impressive.
It's almost impossible.
I have a pretty good understanding of the history of leagues like this. For instance, in 1991, when I covered Pitt in the Big East, they had 8 of their 9 teams that were still candidates to make the tournament on Selection Sunday. And only one of those 8 got left out. Providence got left out, so they got 7 out of 9. That's the highest percentage of membership that any league has ever gotten. It's around 77, 78%. That's the highest ever. In 2011, the Big East got 11 out of 16 members into the field, which was the most any league ever got numerically. What helped that year, the bottom 4 teams, as I recall, did gain, I believe it was only 1 win against the NCAA tournament cohort, only 1. So they're giving all those teams losses all the time.
Right.
And that helps. It helps the rest of the league to be able to get some victories. And as I said, those bottom 4, it was all victories for the top 11. In the Big 12 this year, or you go back to the Big 10 in 2020 when we didn't have a tournament and they were probably going to get 10 out of 14 if there had been one. That was a year in which, in addition to the 10 that would have made it, and IU would have been the last of the 10 teams to get in. They beat Nebraska, and most of us who do this thought that's the one they needed to get to. They needed to not embarrass themselves in the Big Ten tournament, so to speak. If they did that, they're probably getting in. Right. So 10 out of 14. That year, number 11 was Purdue. They were in the hunt to the end. And number 12 was Minnesota. They were in the hunt till probably a week and a half, 2 weeks were left in the season. So those are the leagues that Big 12 is being compared to. But even at that, you had leagues at the bottom teams at the bottom of the league that very rarely beat the top teams. It just wasn't very many of them out of 14. This is something that I have not seen. They have the chance to break 2 records, 2 very obvious, important bracket records in this year. The first one is that at 78%, 77% that I mentioned before that the Big East did in 91. If they get 8 teams, they break it. That's 80%. No one's ever hit 80% before. No. I mean, only that 91 Big East even came close. And now it's not easy to do that. And a week ago, I had 60%. I had 6 teams. Then they went out over the weekend, and Oklahoma did what it did to Alabama, which was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then West Virginia. I mean, West Virginia roughed up Auburn pretty good, but let them get back in the game. But it still took the victory. So they're back in my bracket now. West Virginia has played almost its entire season in Quad 1 against Quad 1 opponents. Because just about everybody they scheduled out of conference or the teams in the league, I think about 70% of their games are Quad 1. So they're back in. So they could break that record. And then the second record is that no league has ever placed 6 teams on the top 4 lines of the bracket, what the NCAA refers to as protected seeds. They've never done that. It makes it hard to an extent to fill out the bracket doing what I do for Fox Sports because you're not supposed to have two teams from the same conference in the top 4 lines. So if I put Kansas in the East region, there's not supposed to be another Big 12 team until the 5th line at the earliest. But you can't do it with them at this point because there are 2 more beyond that. So you have to break the rules in order to accommodate the greatness of this conference.
Which is amazing. But also the SEC right now with 2 teams on the top line. That is
and
absolutely nuts.
Well, but it goes exactly to what we're talking about. Part of the reason is because the other teams in the league boost them up. That's part of it. And now they're both terrific teams. Tennessee's terrific. They're big and strong, and Zakai Ziegler's playing great point guard, and Santiago Vescovi is playing really intelligent and composed basketball as an older veteran. But they don't have to tax themselves in the way that you do in the Big 10 or the Big 12. It's that simple. I mean, you get your Ole Miss, you get your Vandy, you get Georgia, which isn't great. You get Florida, which isn't great. They're not bad teams, but they're not what you're facing. Certainly not in the Big 12, because we saw it this weekend. Big 12 goes 7-3, and I'm more than certain that it would have been 8-2 if Mike Miles for TCU hadn't been lost in the first 4 minutes of their game at Mississippi State. Even without Mike, who's a 20-point-a-game scorer and the best player for TCU, even without him, the game went to overtime. So they probably would have gone 8-2. The Big 12 is that much better than the SEC.
You mentioned Florida, Mike, and I just want to say that I feel like if there's ever a basketball game at any point this season between Florida and Wisconsin, it might set basketball back 150 years because, dear Lord, I mean, neither one of those teams can shoot. They don't. I've watched both of those teams, and it's hard to watch. On a serious note, Northwestern has been a surprise team in the Big Ten. 6-3, they sit in second place all alone right now, 15-5 overall. I think a lot of people thought that Chris Collins was going to be done at some point 2 years ago, last year, but Northwestern stuck with him, and it's paying off this season. I mean, to me, that shows that Northwestern kind of knows its program. There's probably not going to be a coach that comes in there and takes a program that has made one NCAA tournament appearance and take them to 4 or 5 straight or whatever the case might be. I'm just really impressed in Northwestern not pulling the trigger. Now it's paying off, and they've had a phenomenal run, I think, this season.
They have. As a matter of fact, on I think it was Thursday of last week, Rayfel Davis, my partner on Big Ten Basketball and Beyond, put a tweet out, and it said that Purdue could have the Player of the Year, Zach Edey, the Freshman of the Year, Fletcher Lawyer, and Coach of the Year in the Big Ten. And I'm like, I'm not disagreeing with the first couple. I might cast a vote for Braden Smith, or Bryce Sensabaugh is another candidate, but I'm not going to disagree with that. And obviously I'm not going to disagree with Zach, but I think if I had a vote for Big Ten Coach of the Year, and I don't think I do, if I would
predict that you're going to say it's either got to be Chris Collins or Steve Peichel.
Well, you got to be watching Big Ten Basketball and Beyond, Jim, because I mean, you should know this. You should know this. Come on.
I've got it DVR'd, man.
It's
DVR'd yet.
It's repeated multiple times. So I made the argument for Chris Collins that I first started out by pointing out that I don't do, as a matter of conscience or whatever, I won't do a coach on the hot seat list. They do good numbers most of the time if you do them, but it's just something I'm not comfortable doing. One thing I said I would never do as a columnist is I will tell you why somebody's not good at their job if they're not good at their job. Right. But I won't ever tell you to fire them. That's your job. Your job is to fire them if they're not good at their job. It's not my job. Now, if the person, man or woman, is doing something that's horrible,
right,
that's different. But just wins, losses, that sort of thing, I won't do that. I will tell you that the person isn't very good and not doing a good job, but I'm not going to say, get rid of them. That's not what I do. So I pointed that out. And then I pointed out that I did Google coach on the hot seat lists for last summer, and he was on all of them. And so to go from that to second in this league, to go from being predicted for a 13th place finish, 13th place in a 14-team league, to currently standing alone in second place, and not in a bad year for the league, in a year when the myself and others who do bracket predictions have been vacillating between 8 and 10 teams in the league getting in. To be able to do that is remarkable, and to do it without adding okay. So I'm totally in support of Jerome Tang at K-State being the national coach of the year today, but he added Keontae Johnson, who was the SEC player of the year, but wasn't able to return to Florida. So he comes into K-State and he's still great. And so, but Chris didn't add anybody like that. He had some good freshmen who are contributing, but not starring. And he still took the team from really not good last year to really not expected to be good this year to really good. And that's why I would vote for him today as Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how there's just not a lot. There's not a lot of argument against him. Maybe some argument for Steve.
Oh, absolutely. Well, there's a great argument for Matt. I mean, they're winning almost every game. He's done a phenomenal job bringing Zach along as a player. Remember, Zach Edey was ranked the 440th player in his class, something like that. And now he's going to be National Player of the Year. So I think there's
first of all, anybody that ever ranked a 7'4" guy 400th is dumb. They're just dumb. They're just dumb.
But he didn't play basketball for a long time.
I don't care. He just walks onto the court and he's got to be in the top 200 just standing there. He doesn't have to just tell him, you say, you just stand there and do this. He will be more imposing than most people have seen. So, that's dumb. I think. And rankings, they're so stupid. I think we see more and more they're so dumb because it's not about where you are now. It's where are you going to be 2-3 years from now, and how can you grow? Are you coachable? A lot of those things you can't see. Those guys that do the rankings, you can't see how well you're coachable. You can maybe talk to people and find out, but you still. I don't know that
those guys do talk to people. I mean, I've known some people who were analysts.
Oh, absolutely. I have some that work for me to do it, but and I tell them that. But it's still hard to. You just can't predict kids.
Well, you try. That's the job. Yeah. That's why you can't predict in the NFL draft, or no one would ever be a bust. I mean, every player, the first player would be the best player, and the second player would be the second best player, and obviously that isn't the way it works out in real life. So you can't ever, but it's your job to try to analyze that. And they do a pretty good job for the most part of being in the area. I do think that they need to recalibrate what they're looking for a little bit. I mean, like Grady Dick should have been one of the top 5 players in this class. And because you get a wing that's that dynamic, that can handle it like he does, that plays as hard as he does and shoots it as well as he does. And that's what everybody wants now. That's what the NBA wants. They want, are you really dynamic? Can you handle, pass, shoot, and do you play hard? Well, Grady Dick checks off every box. There were, I think he was the 14th player in his class. There aren't 13 guys ahead of him who do those things well. There are some, maybe you could say, but there weren't 13. And they missed that. Brandon Miller was 11th. He's shooting 46% from 3-point range, and he's a 6'8" guy who can play as a stretch 4 or as a big 3. How is there 10 players better than him? There can't be. You have to. I think they need to recalibrate to the modern game, the current game. Now it may morph into something else 10 years from now. I don't know, but what it is right now, if you can't shoot, you can't be one of the best players.
Right.
I mean, and unless you're Zach Edey, you can't,
if you can't shoot,
that brings up a question. Then that brings right into Trace Jackson Davis. Where does he fit into that category? Because he can't shoot beyond 4 feet.
Yeah, but he can shoot there.
Right.
I mean, he's not, that's part of the reason he's there is because he's not proven that he can make, long distance shots. But when I watch him play, I just see like, why couldn't he be Bam Adebayo or at least some version of him? How can he not?
He has turned into that.
But I mean, he's always been at least on that track.
Right.
I don't know why the NBA's never totally embraced him as that. Bam's bigger than he is, obviously, but I still think that guys, they play smaller than Bam in a lot of occasions. Teams will throw out lineups that don't have anybody even as big as Bam, who's like 6'9", 260. They'll throw some lineups out there with 6'8", 225 guys. And that's basically, Trace is in that ballpark. So I just don't see any reason why he can't be a good NBA player. He can't be a great NBA player if he doesn't make shots, but he can be a good NBA player. And what he does right now, I was talking to Rafael on when we were in between in the commercial on Sunday. And I said, what the coolest moment in basketball, this college basketball season right now, the coolest regular thing that happens is when Trace catches the ball about 6 feet out of the lane and he grabs it with the one hand. Like, something really, really bad is going to happen to the opposing team when he gets that ball in that one hand and he's looking around. I mean, the last player I saw do that and then play out of that with authority he doesn't even need a name. He just needs a nickname. His name is Dr. J. Now, I'm not saying he's Dr. J, but that's who used to do that. He would catch that ball and he'd palm it in that hand and he'd be looking around, okay, how badly am I going to cook this guy right now?
Yep. And the only thing with Trace is when he does that is like, don't wait for the double team, dude. Just go ahead and do what you're going to do right now. We got to take a quick break. The great Mike DeCourcy is with us talking college basketball. Lots more to talk about. Brought to you by our good friends from Endeavor Hospitality's Wild Club and Go Team. For those on the go, whether it's you, your kids, the team, make sure you give them Go Team for that quick, delicious snack on the go. You can pick them up at BB's Market or GoTeamBites.com. Back with more Mike DeCourcy right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's the deal. Man, college basketball has been fun, and this is going to be potentially the most wide open. We said this last year, but it's more so this year, the most wide open tournament in the history of the tournament.
Yeah, I think that's true. I really
When you've got Alabama and Tennessee on the top freaking line.
And I thought Alabama was great, and I still think they're really good.
I'm not saying they're not good. I'm just saying when you look at these names, you're like, oh, what the hell is going on? What in the name of wide world of sports is going on in college basketball?
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, if Alabama happens to be the best team in a year, that doesn't mean it has to be wide open. I mean, Alabama.
No, but it's not just that. It's the Big 12. Hell, you don't know who from the Big 12 is going to win. The last seeded team from the Big 12 could be a team that it's like,
I know,
and I love it. I love it.
It's gonna be wild. It really is. Because there's nobody in this tournament that you say, yep, that's the one, or even like you can't even find one that has everything. Like you can't find a team that has everything.
Last year, all we heard about was Gonzaga and Baylor. It was Gonzaga and Baylor all year long. This year, there is nobody that is. I mean, yeah, Purdue's getting, but they're not being looked at as what Gonzaga was, or definitely Baylor. They don't have the experience that Baylor had.
You mean 2 years ago?
Oh yeah, 2 years ago.
Yeah, because last year was Gonzaga, but it wasn't Baylor. It was
2 years ago when Baylor won the national championship.
Yeah.
Gonzaga, Baylor. It's all we heard about. And then and now there's just
last year was the Krzyzewski special all year long.
Yes, I was in on that.
That's right. You had to follow him around, didn't you?
Yeah, I went to every.
Mike was waving the flag, baby.
Oh no, I went to every game that they played in the NCAA tournament from South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina to San Francisco, and then on to New Orleans. Yes, I was there the entire way.
And it was great. It was good to do. And then he got one last dig on me in San Francisco, busting my tail on a question I was asking. He said I had to go to my room because I asked the question.
All right, about 30 seconds. Excuse me. Go ahead and pull us back in.
County's Wild Club is located next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers. It's one of the most popular gathering spots in Bloomington. Whether you're out on a date with your spouse, friends, or coworkers, Feast Market and Cellar offers an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also
Impressive
provides a wide
pronunciation of sommelier.
Gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering.
Hey, I think
Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you here on this Tuesday, January 31. Tomorrow starts the celebration, boys. Tomorrow starts the celebration of my birthday month.
Birth month.
It's February 1st, so I'm like, let's just go ahead and kick it off.
My wife and I have this thing that we call the birthday extravaganza weekend. I didn't realize you could do the whole month.
Well, most guys don't. That's usually a girl thing. And neither will I, but the weekend is definitely because mine falls on a weekend. Luckily,
there you go.
And it's an IU away game. So, do you know IU plays away on the weekends just one time the entire conference season this year?
I did not know that.
Every weekend is a home game for them.
So they're trying to keep you busy. Is that what you're saying?
I guess, but it's just it was odd. I remember looking at the schedule going, dude, they're at home every stinking weekend except for my birthday weekend, which is cool. I forget where they play that weekend.
So I guess that means you're not going.
I will not be in attendance.
Okay.
That's what the TVs are for. In a break, you're commenting on the sommelier. One of the first women sommeliers, I think, was from my high school. I was trying to find her, but yeah, she wrote a bunch of books. It was crazy. I remember seeing that, and I'm like, what? She actually worked at the top of the what was it called, at the top of the trade towers, top of the world restaurant.
Yeah,
she used to work there. Windows on the World. Yeah, she used to work there. Thank goodness she didn't after that. But yeah, craziness. But yep, they've got a full the biggest selection of wine around, baby. So stop in and check them out at Feast. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Mike DeCourcy from the BTN and Sporting News with us. Man, how has it been? It seems like it has to be more fun this year doing your duties with BTN with all these games that are like this. The Big Ten has been is just a jumbled from the beginning. You know, everyone thought Indiana, Michigan, then it was Illinois, and they're like, no, it's Michigan State, no, it's Purdue. It's like Purdue settled in there kind of quick. They're the only first unanimous selection for number one this year in this current poll. Are they good enough to win a national championship though, with freshman guards? And basically, I'm not saying that they don't have a good team. They do. They've got great players, but Zach Edey, absolutely. Just like Indiana with Trey Jackson, Zach Edey, though, if something were to happen, they're done. Well, but it's the freshman guards more so that I think when you get into tournament and all that stuff, having two freshman guards has got to, even though they have played spectacularly all season.
They're tremendous. I don't worry as much about them being freshmen as about whether or not, you don't win this thing without NBA guys. It's really that simple. And so the question is, if you look back, I'm trying to remember now, I believe that there has not been a championship team without an NBA first-round pick since the Hoosiers in '87. I believe that's the last time.
Wow. Also, the last time a team won the national championship without names on the back of their jerseys.
Yeah, it is true. I talk about that all the time with people. Yes.
Yes.
No, actually, that's not correct because Kansas.
But
Kansas road uniforms in '88 did not have them either, and they were the road team because they were a 6 seed. So I believe Kansas was against Oklahoma. You can look at it. Look for a photo of that game, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, I guess you'd say that does not use names at all. I guess you'd have.
Yes, I'm saying Manning was not on the back of the jersey, and neither was Miracle on the other 4 players. You know, but you do you have those guys? Is Fletcher Lawyer an NBA player? I'm not going to say he's not, and it sometimes emerges later on. Like I remember when Villanova won it in '16, there was no obvious first-round pick on the team. There was none. They were very good players, obviously. They won the championship, but there was no obvious first-round pick. And I remember us having a conversation afterwards. So does this break the precedent? And then the next year, Josh Hart became a first-round pick. And then a couple years after that, Mikal Bridges became a lottery pick. And then it all sort of, blew that concept out of the water. So that would have to be Purdue. If Purdue is to win this, they either break precedent or Fletcher Lawyer develops into a first-round pick, or Braden Smith grows 4 inches and then he's an automatic lottery pick. I
don't see either of those two happening.
So that's the question. Now the break precedent, it's always out there, and if there was ever a year to do that, because I think somebody in some sense is going to break a precedent this year, or I wrote an article last February or March about a concept I call the Jimmy Black exception. In '82, Jimmy Black was the point guard for Carolina. And now his teammates were Sam Perkins, James Worthy, and a guy named Michael Jordan. So the fact that Jimmy was set it up, get the ball to the right guy, play, guard your guy, point guard, didn't matter that much. There have been very few Jimmy Black exceptions over the last 40 years. And so that, so to an extent, it's not unprecedented if you go in and win this thing without a high-end elite level point guard. But most of the teams that win it have one. Whether he's an all-conference guy or whether he's a pro, they have that guy. And so now this year, I could see somebody winning it without that guy. So it wouldn't necessarily be a complete, total breaking a precedent, but it would be one of those unusual things. I don't look at any team in this country. Kansas is an example. Kansas now, went in and beat Kentucky. They've been on the 1 line this year. They still are in the fight for a 1 seed. There are very few teams that win this thing without a center who's at least 6'10". Most of the centers are 6'10", 6'11", 7 feet that win this thing. And they're usually, capable shot blockers, obviously rebounders, maybe a target in the post, but somebody that can give you a presence down low. Almost everybody that wins this thing has that guy. Kansas does not have that player. They start a 6'7" guy at center. Their tallest player is 6'8" in their starting lineup. So that's what you're up against. Everybody's a little bit flawed. And I don't mean just everybody but so-and-so. I mean everybody. And you can see that reflected in results like Alabama losing to Oklahoma by 24 points on Saturday when Alabama entered the game as like the number 2 team in the country. Or Tennessee losing at home to Kentucky when Kentucky was out of everybody's bracket, out of the polls, obviously, and Tennessee's top 5, and they lose at home. So I think that's what makes it exactly what you're talking about, Jim. I think that sitting down with a bracket in your hand on Selection Monday, if you want to call it that, is going to be as big a crapshoot as anybody as you've ever done it when you sat down on that Monday or Sunday night or whenever you have to do it.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm looking for, say, Gonzaga. There they are. They're on the 4 line.
Right.
And, last year they were one of the, of course, they lost a number one pick off of that team, but I thought they were going to be a little better than they are. They still have Drew Timmy and a decent cast, but not a lot out of them this year. I am a little surprised. I look up Indiana. You have them at 8 right now. If that's correct, I think I've got the correct.
That is correct. I will tell you, check at CBB on Fox early afternoon today, or my Twitter. I will obviously retweet that, and you will find them not an 8. Let's put it that way.
What is it? What day does it change?
Every Tuesday and Friday. We do it twice a week.
Oh, twice a week.
Yes.
All right. So every Tuesday and Friday, go to CBB on Fox and look that up. So just to hate to ruin the surprise, but where would they be if I looked at that time?
Above 8, let's say that way.
Okay, above 8. Because the only reason I'm asking, because I'm like, all right, the net rankings they're about 20, I think 20. What I remember, right around there. How much of the net rankings goes into your thinking? How much of your view, because you watched tons of it, the games yourself, how much of the analytics do you use? I'm just curious from a prognostic standpoint.
I will say, first of all, I don't use eye test at all. I think any committee member who uses the words eye test should be thrown off the committee. That's simple. I mean, I think that person should be said, okay, there's a nice restaurant down the street. We'll comp your dinner. That's it. You're done. It should never, ever be mentioned, because look, it's a simple theory. If all of us had perfect eyes, I used to say it this way. If all of us had perfect eyes, we'd all live in Vegas in very big houses. Well, now I could live wherever in a very big house because I can do it on my phone. So I don't even have to go to Vegas to place that bet that I'm guaranteed to win because I have perfect eyes. It's nonsense. So eye test should never come into it. You have to evaluate teams based on what they've accomplished. And that as simple as that. Because again, eye test, okay, so let's say I want to do the eye test. Okay, so I watch Alabama and they blow Kentucky out of the gym. They're pretty impressive. I turn on the Oklahoma game. They get smoked by 24, and it could have been worse than that. Maybe should have been. So what do I know? I know that they're capable of anything. I know they're, but I know what they
just like if Indiana were to beat Purdue this week. That's the same team that lost to Arizona and Kansas and looked terrible.
Yeah, I mean, and it's there are reasons and this and that, but the reality is that all you really have to understand a team is what they've accomplished, and so. When I'm looking and I'm trying to read into the mind of the committee what they're looking at, usually they'll tell us in the bracket preview that they do in mid-February how they're evaluating. They'll give us an idea. And every committee is a little different because the people change. Usually there are 2-3 new committee members a year. Others rotate off. So and there's always a new chair, so that person may have different views and try to guide certain things a certain way. So the first thing that I look at is your quadrant 1 victory, what your record is. That's the number one thing I look at. And then secondly, I look at what your record is against the first 2 quadrants combined, because that's essentially telling us what you are relative to what an NCAA tournament team is. That's the easiest, handiest way. Another way would be to look at your record against the field. That's something that you can only do once you've established a field. So it takes a little, so it's a little bit secondary in that sense. There are 5. If you go to a site that I use all the time, and it's really good and really handy, so I try to promote I don't know Warren Nolan, but warrennolan.com. It is a great site to give you what the committee will see, updated pretty much real time. And there are 5 metrics that are listed on the team sheet. 3 predictive metrics: ESPN's BPI, Ken Palm, Jeff Sagarin. Those are predictive metrics. They're designed to tell you if 2 teams met and the point spread was 7 okay, if you look at their performance relative to these metrics, this tells you whether that line should hold, which side of the line you should be on. That's the idea behind those. There are two that are results-based. Kevin Palga, Michigan State administrator, KPI, and strength of record, another ESPN metric that I happen to think is really good. I think it when I see a team and I look at its resume and I think that's a 6 seed relative to what else I'm doing, and then I look at strength of record, most of the time I'm in the same ballpark as what strength of record is saying. So I think that's a more important metric than people realize. I think it matters. Your net ranking is another predictive metric, to be honest. I don't like the net for that reason, because it wasn't supposed to be a predictive metric. But if you look at it and you compare it to the predictives, it is much more closely aligned with those than it is with the results based. It's supposed to be a hybrid, but it trends toward the predictive. So I don't love it. Your ranking is not enormous in that. And I think to an extent, none of the individual numbers is like definitive. Because if I had a bunch of Creighton people yelling at me because I had them in a first 4 game last Friday before they beat Xavier at home. And they're telling me what their KenPom number is and what their net number is. And I'm like, yeah, but those aren't the only metrics on the sheet. Their strength of record number was around 48, 50, something like that. So they weren't, but they only see what they want to see. It all becomes part of the stew. But the number one thing, if you want to understand, is what are you doing against quad 1 and what are you doing against quad 1 and 2 combined? Those are the two most important factors relative to getting in and relative to placement. If you're a team like Wisconsin and Providence were a year ago, Providence won the Big East, but metrically they were meager. They were 30th in KenPom, 30th in the net, et cetera, et cetera. So they had a great strength of record number, but their predictors were so poor that it was hard to put them on a 1 or 2 line for the committee. But they didn't go a straight metric because they still were a 4, which would be equivalent to top 16. And like I said, Providence was somewhere around 30-ish when the season ended. They didn't get a lot of big wins. They beat you by 1, beat you by 2, beat you by 3. So that's why you don't score well in KenPom or the net or Sagarin, et cetera. They want you to win by a lot because that's indicative of dominance, and dominance is more reliable. So that's how you look at it when you're doing this. It's a complete picture. It's not any one number. It's all the numbers factored into sort of a stew. But the number one thing is, I love this. I don't remember who it was the first person that said this. The one that I hated the most, Stan Morrison, who was the athletic director and a former coach at Southern California, used to say when they were teaching us this at the mock brackets, he used to say, okay, shirts and skins, who wins? Like, that's the eye test. No, I don't want to know any part of that. But who did you play? Where did you play? How did you do? That's the definition of an NCAA tournament resume. Who did you play? Where did you play? How did you do?
Yeah, I look at looking at Warren Nolan right now, which is fascinating. And I just happened to pull on to the 65th team, Texas Tech.
There you go. If you look at that site, for those listening, you want to go to the net nitty gritty, and it lists the top 100 teams and then every auto bid team that would be in place as of today. And there's a little tiny thing on the line for each team that looks basically like a sheet of paper to the right of the team's name. And that is a team sheet. That's an approximation of what a committee member would see when they sit down in the first week of March with all the other committee members, and they'll see those team sheets on each team. And that's that's more or less what it will look like. And you can see on there, like, when teams say, okay, my team, when fans say my team is 3-4 against quad one, but then you can tell like there's even a dividing line on what's really a quad one and what's kind of a quad one, the toughest quad one games and the weakest quad one games. And so you can see like even how you fare against the very best, the most difficult games in quad one and the slightly less difficult games. So there's a lot that goes into it. And it evolves so much over the course of the year. And I will acknowledge that bracket reveal is very helpful to me because then I can read the committee. Then I know because these are the bracket reveal is basically a mock projection from the people who are actually on the committee. They meet in mid-February and they go through the process and they produce these top four seeds in each bracket. And then they give you an idea of how they're thinking. And sometimes you may disagree with it, but in my job, I have to say, okay, I don't agree, but I have to try to match what they're doing. So I have to begin to think like they're thinking. Up until then, I'm trying to be in the ballpark of what I think they'll be thinking, but I haven't seen their work yet. I don't know what they value. I don't know whether it will be the same as it was for the last group. It'll probably be similar, but that it won't be identical.
Before I let you go, it is someone appropriately put up, it is a big week for Indiana. Tonight they travel to Maryland. We had this discussion earlier. I do not expect them to win this game. And it's not because I don't think that they're a better team. I do think that they're a better team, but I don't care. They're going to Maryland, who is 10-1 at home. And until someone besides UCLA beats them, I'm going to say, they've got it going on at home. They play better at home for whatever reason. Now, can they win? Of course, I think they can win. Again, I think they're a better team, but we've seen what happens on the road sometimes. That's tough, especially when you're talking about a conference game. Maryland desperately needs to win because they're not playing well on the road, so they've got to equal that out. And you get past that. And then, of course, Indiana has a gigantic, emotionally charged. I don't even know the superlatives to put to this game. They've never played Purdue ranked number 1 in Assembly Hall because Purdue's never been number 1 ranked in Assembly Hall. So this will be a first. And there would be, oh my God, I'm afraid to forget about medal falling from the scoreboard. The scoreboard might fall if Indiana beats Purdue at number 1 on Saturday.
Well, let's hope not, because there might be 1 or 2 students on the floor after that game if it does happen. So let's hope that there's nothing falling from the scoreboard if they do beat them. It's a tremendous opportunity for the Hoosiers, but it's also a tremendous challenge because of the difficulty of defending Zach Edey. And you've got 10 fouls to spend on him. You just don't want Trace to be the one who spends any of them. It's very difficult to play against him right now. And I'm going to give credit to the officials that I've been watching in their games because I watched on him because they're being fair to him. And a year ago in the NCAA tournament, when they played Texas in the second round, and Texas had a bunch of big guys, so they just spent every foul, and they called them all. And it was and the Boilers were able to get through that. And then the Sweet 16 game, St. Peter's had a bunch of little guys, maybe a little bit bigger than me, but still little relative to the world of basketball front courts in college, and they let him do whatever. And Zach couldn't play. He couldn't play in that game, and it wasn't right. Just because he's 7'4" doesn't mean it's fair game. Shaq dealt with that a lot of his career. If a guy's fouling a guy, whatever size he is, call it. And the refs who've been reffing Purdue games have been giving him a fair whistle all throughout the year. And that's, that's part of why he's been able to be as successful as he is, because he's getting a fair whistle, because teams can't do what they had been doing at times a year ago. They didn't see as much of him then, and he didn't have the cachet he has now. So that may be part of it, but I'm happy to see that he's getting a reasonable whistle, And so that makes it a challenge as well.
Well, Zach Edey might be the only player in the Big Ten that's getting an equal whistle from the officials.
Oh, no, I'm not going there.
That's why I said nothing about any other player on any team. I think that they equally screw all the players. I don't think that they. I don't think that they favor anybody. I really don't. I think that they just. Yeah, it's a tough job, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Yes.
What's up next for you, Mike?
Yeah, I think I'm going to write a piece about that. Some of that Big 12 I was talking about. And some prep for the Super Bowl I think I'll be doing this week.
Which we didn't get to talk about, daggone it.
Yep. They'll play the game
2 weeks
almost
from now.
2 weeks from now, so we have another opportunity next week.
We do get a chance to see the Peyton and Eli show again, though, in between, as they coach the
Pro Bowl.
Whatever the Pro Bowl, I guess you call it.
Yeah.
The Pro Flag Bowl. They're playing flag football, which, you know what? It's probably just as good because they were almost playing flag football before they were playing defense.
100%.
So it may be funnier because it may be add some comedy to it.
Maybe.
So they got to do something. It was the worst All-Star game in the history of All-Star games.
It was really bad.
But sorry. And then of course you have your BTN duties as well.
Yes. Big Ten and Beyond will be on next Sunday evening. Bracket comes out at CBB on Fox. CBB for college basketball on Fox. All one word on Instagram, Twitter, etc. And shout out to the gentleman who opened the show by representing my Point Park alumni status. We were in the middle of a discussion, so I didn't get to note it at the time. But if you're still out there, thanks for noting my Big Ten. My Point Park alum status. That was pretty cool.
Did he just like nail it to the T or something?
He had it. It was one of those notes that we get.
I'm looking for the comment. But is Point Park an area where you're from?
Point Park is my university. That's my.
To school. My bad.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, they're in a conference with IU East. So every now and then I think IU Kokomo. So they've been in. They come into the state every now and then to do a little sport and stuff. And the Point Park hoop team is having a very good year. So good for them.
I cannot believe I can't find that comment. I'm just because I know it was early on, just to give them the comp of who that was. I cannot believe that, but I'll find it, of course, when you're gone, and I'll give them a shout out. But
yes,
daggone it. Oh well, but Mike appreciates it no matter what until I find you.
Thanks,
Mike,
guys.
we appreciate you, buddy. You have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
We'll see you next week. Take care.
The great Mike DeCourcy joining as well. Mike DeCourcy joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Of course, brought to you by our good friends from Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. If you're down in the Louisville, Southern Indiana areas, Floyd, Clark, Harrison, Scott, Clark, Jefferson counties, they have served those communities for over 3 decades. No one can get you in the home better, quicker, and less expensive than Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com, or our good man, Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio and Chronic Hoosier right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore. Hello, Chronic.
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Somebody asked a trivia question earlier. Who was the only IU player to be ranked in every week of his 4-year career at IU?
In every week.
I don't understand how it can be one player. Now I know who the player is so they gave the answer, but I'm like, okay, how could he be the only player? I have to look back up on that recruiting class. It's Damon Bailey. Damon Bailey is when it was. But okay. I'm like, okay, who came in with him? I know it could not have been a very big class because they had like 46 guys come in the year before with Graham and the Grahams and Leary and Reynolds and Calvert, Lindemann, Thunderberg. So they could not have had much room. But it could not have been a one-man class. Somebody have to pull up the recruiting class from 1990. There it is. Damn it. Well, Fred, sorry about that.
Pat Knight.
Oh.
Who else was in that class with him?
Well, then Pat Knight would be on that list.
Because he didn't redshirt, did he? Memory serves, he didn't.
I don't think so. Would not really have been a reason for Pat to redshirt.
Straight out of Bloomington North.
Yeah. I was going to say, I knew. There you go. So I think we've got a little add-on to who asked that? Daggone, now I missed it. Oh, he left. He had to leave anyway. That's right. He was leaving. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome. A little anxious about tonight, but otherwise doing great.
Yeah, we've been talking about this game. I think this is the game Indiana can win. I do not expect them to win this game. Vegas does not expect them to win this game. It does not mean they cannot win the game. I just they're 10-1 at home for a reason.
Well, and I'll tell you what, and this is sacrilege. Indiana needs this game more than they need the Purdue win. Quad one road win. That helps you a whole lot more than a home loss to the number one ranked team does.
Your plan and pick up at BB's Market with no extra charge. So leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday, January 31. Jim Coyle with you as always, Dustin Schutte as well. And now we're joined by our good friend Chronic Hoosier. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Love to have you here. Just to finish up with Mike DeCourcy, and he introduced us to another. I know there's tons of websites out there, but he introduced us to one that is just really spectacular with the metrics for what is determined on the NCAA tournament. I'm trying to look where I put it, but anyway, I think on there, Indiana's probably a 4 seed right now, which is about where I would have them. But this is all for fun and games right now. It's just to be able to look at, and, people move up and down, Dustin. It's like, teams move from the top line, off the top line. It is kind of cool to see it. I used to hate it because I'm like, it's stupid. It doesn't matter to the end. But it's kind of fun to watch it, the ebbs and flows, where you can actually see how teams move up and down.
Well, I think one of the things that is interesting is you and I and anybody else that does this in media get a lot of scrutiny about how we judge teams from one week to the next or how we talk about teams. But the thing that's cool about the bracket and all these different rankings, it shows how much a team can fluctuate or how much a team changes, improves, regresses throughout the course of a season. So it adds some validity to the fact that things can change from one week to the next, especially in college basketball.
And Chronic, it has definitely changed in a fortuitous way for Indiana after going through a mini slump of losing 3 straight, now winners of 5 straight as they head to Maryland, College Park, it's a team that Indiana's better than. We've been having this discussion all day. Of course, I think that they're better than Maryland. That's not the relevance. I don't know if they're they're going to have to play above and beyond because Maryland's 10-1 at home for a reason. They've lost only UCLA, so it's and Vegas has them as an underdog. Vegas, usually isn't too far off, but it doesn't mean that they can't win the game. They can, but and I know you said it's more important they win this game than Purdue, and that's a great. It does from a metric standpoint. It is absolutely more important at the end of the year, but does beating the number one team do more for your team going forward?
Beating Purdue at home is always going to be a high point of a season, no matter where the season ends, no matter where the team is, in the broader landscape of things. You want to beat your rival. And, it's not often that you get to face a number one ranked Purdue team. Let's be frank, that doesn't happen that often. Yes, there's going to be a ton of juice. The matchup between Edey and Trace Jackson Davis is obviously going to be one of the premier big men matchups in the country all season. All that being said, winning on the road in conference is always going to be extraordinarily challenging and extraordinarily rewarding at the same time. For Indiana to have lost games at Iowa and Penn State, and then the home game against Northwestern, the road game against Rutgers, you've got to get you've got to get all the wins you can, but particularly on the road and in league, and then just pray you can defend your home court. But a quad one road win pays massive dividends come Selection Sunday. That helps more than a home loss against the number one ranked team hurts. Now, all that being said, lo and behold, Indiana's currently in a three-way tie for third in the Big Ten right now, sitting at 6-4. Obviously, Purdue at 10-1, 2 games clear of Northwestern in second, and then you got Illinois, Indiana, and Rutgers in a three-way tie for third. It's not dead. It's just going to be really tough. Obviously, a win against Purdue this weekend, you find yourselves 2 games back, and you're back in the hunt for the conference title. All that said, though, as you guys were just discussing, we're 21 games into the season. You got 10 games left, and as we put a bow on January basketball, we've reached the point where you know who everybody is at this point. And Indiana's a great example. You've seen them kind of ebb and flow. You saw them certainly stumble throughout December into the first couple weeks of January. And then they got the legs back underneath them. They're riding a 5-game streak. You never want to see a streak end. You want to keep the momentum rolling. But most importantly, the team seems to be figuring out who they are. The chemistry is clicking. The balance is evident. The depth is developing. They're becoming a dangerous team. And that's exactly where you want to see your team trending, the arc you want to see them on once February starts. Because, if the die has been set, now you really have to fill it in and hold that position, if you will, if not grow it. So every game counts for the remainder of the schedule, as we've discussed in weeks past, though. It gets extraordinarily difficult for Indiana. The schedule does. Pretty much starting right now with a road game in College Park. Maryland is a lot like Indiana in a lot of ways. I think the one thing that stands out, they're an extraordinarily experienced team. I think Ken Palm has them 13th in the nation in Division I experience on that roster. Experienced teams tend to do a lot of things not to beat themselves, and it's going to be really tough for Indiana to not beat themselves on the road in this type of environment. And with all the hype, everybody Trace making the Wooden Award, all the chatter, Dickie V's coming this weekend to call the Purdue game. This is one of those classic trap games where it's real easy to look forward to your rival and miss the opportunity in front of you. But I think this is going to be an absolutely massive opportunity for Indiana to prove that, the team that's dropped a couple against lesser opponents and taken some from, at the time, seemingly superior opponents, that's truly who they are, that they're capable of beating anybody in the league. Well, if that's the case, you got to be like Purdue. You got to go on the road and you got to win those that maybe you're not projected to or are supposed to be tight, and just focus on that very next game on the schedule. Because as we've seen in the past, you get stuck looking ahead and things can turn on you, and they can turn in a hurry. So you got to keep the momentum, you got to keep the growth, and hopefully you can keep stacking up W's and improving that seed line as you enter the home stretch of the season here once February starts.
Did you hear the terminology Chronic used, Jim? Trap game.
It's see now that's where I disagree.
No,
Maryland.
No. This is where I would go with that. In that it's not necessarily a trap game because of who you're playing, but it's like a look ahead. Like I think it's easy to look at. We got number 1 Purdue coming in to our home on Saturday. That's the bigger game. That's going to be the bigger game. That's why I say it's a trap game.
If you were not playing a team that's 10-1 at home and it's a conference game, I would understand that. But you're going into a place that you're not expected to win. You're not even picked to win. You're not expected to win. So that in and of itself should be enough to get their attention. There's enough time between Tuesday and Saturday. I promise you, this team is not looking ahead. Mike Woodson has them looking at Maryland tonight. Maryland is 10-1, and he is going to challenge them because they're not expected to win this game. I don't pick them to win this game. It would be nice if they did for him, but it's not a trap. A trap game is one that you're supposed to win, and you get knocked off. They're not supposed to win this game. So it's not a trap game in my estimations, but that's me. What the hell do I know?
The one thing that Indiana has struggled with, the one thing where they probably have the thinnest experience, is in handling expectation. You see everybody, all the players sharing all the graphics, now that they're back in the top 25, the wooden watch list, all the accolades start rolling back in on you. And it's real easy to start feeling good about yourself again. You've received outside validation of what you've accomplished so far. But at the end of the day, aside from what's on your record for the season, that's all well and good. But we all know, how much those November, December, and January wins mean if you don't handle your business come February and March. So I'm looking for a team with the maturity, with the experience, to ignore the expectations, to ignore the accolades, and keep playing like everything's falling apart on them and they have to scrap and claw their way back to respectability. And that's one thing, with the exception of probably the North Carolina game, maybe the Xavier game this year, where Indiana has not been particularly adept in managing those expectations and living up to the accolades. And that's the sign of maturity. That's the sign of a team that's got good leadership, is when you turn all that noise off and just focus on the next opponent. So I would love to be proven wrong, but history has proven that this team does not necessarily manage those expectations, those accolades, as well as you would hope. And I hope I'm wrong on that after tonight.
So that brings up an interesting point, because we talked about earlier in the show, somebody made the comment that it would prove that Indiana has turned the corner if they were able to win that game tonight. And I'm interested to get your take on that, because my thought is these last 5 games, I've thought Indiana has turned a corner. The way they've played defensively, the way they've reestablished their focus on that end of the floor, and the way that Trace Jackson Davis is playing. Like I think that they've already turned that corner, win or lose tonight. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Does that speak more volumes than I'm maybe giving it credit?
It certainly seems as though Indiana has. I felt like after the string of injuries that they amassed, it was they were kind of listless, kind of rudderless for a while. Guys trying to figure out the mix again, get the chemistry right, and the combination of a number of things. I think Trace Jackson Davis has been on an absolute tear on both ends of the floor. Quite honestly, just competing at an extraordinary level. I think Hood Schifino has really upped his game and is playing like the 5-star that you would expect him to be. But I think that goes all the way down the line. I've got people chirping at me about Miller Kopp's production as Indiana has kind of been reascendant here. His production's really dropped off. That doesn't mean that he's not playing his butt off out there. He's just doing it in different ways. He has filled in a different role than perhaps what he was earlier in the season. So
what role is that though? That's the curious thing. I'm not sure what it is.
It's not
defense.
No,
and it's not offense.
He's trying. I think teams have to respect him on offense. They know that you've got shooters now. You don't see them sagging off Kopp and Trey Galloway like we previously had. They've proven that they have to be respected a little bit. Trace has had to show that he's going to be able to find that open guy when the double or the triple comes and he's getting trapped. He has shown that he can get the ball out to the open man. I think his role right now is still a little bit in flux, but at the end of the day, it's hard to argue that those guys haven't figured out how to play winning basketball together. And I think most importantly, that's all that matters, and you saw it starting in the second half against Wisconsin. They figured out how to squeeze a team to death. We've seen this team get up quite a bit, and we've seen them give those leads away. Figuring out how to establish that lead, the close of the first half against Ohio State was just some of the most beautiful basketball this team has played in a while. And they've seen now that they're capable of that. The big lesson, though, is how not to let that slide. And, that certainly could have been a 25-point game, but a 16-point game against Ohio State, just as good. Minnesota, I thought, as ugly as that game was, great lesson on how to close out a bad team on the road when nothing seems to be going right. That's a game this team probably loses 9 times out of 10 in the previous years. As ugly as it is, that's a road win that you probably don't get in years past. There's a lot of value in that. And then, the Michigan State, the Illinois games, those were just further statements that maybe that corner had been turned. Now, it's real easy to say that when you're riding a 5-game streak. You got to back it up if that's truly the case. And, we've said it before, and it's always going to be true. Growth isn't always going to be linear. It's not like once you're good permanently. Teams are going to struggle. Guys are going to have off nights. Matchups aren't going to go against you or aren't going to go your way necessarily. You've got to find a way when, if Trace is struggling, who else steps up, who else answers the bell and picks up that slack. And I think what you've seen most importantly over the last 2 weeks is a team where guys are stepping up and showing that they can be that guy on any given night. Now we got to see it with greater consistency, and we need to see it across the board because Lord knows you got some challenges ahead with the schedule.
I think this is going to be come across as funny, weird. I think that the serious injuries that they suffered were the best team that could have happened to this team, not to lose the X and race, but to gain the play that the guys have had to step up underneath of them and the experience that they have picked up because of that, I think has been immeasurable for this team, because I don't think that their record would be any better than it is right now, other than they should not have lost to Iowa because of injury wise. That injury really, when Race went down, they went into shell shock and didn't recover. That's a game that they absolutely should not have lost. But other than that, I don't know that the record would be that different because of the injuries. But I think getting Race back, that's going to be nice. I don't know if and when they get Xavier back. Before the last game, he was out before the game shooting, taking shots, putting up shots. But then, of course, he went back and put the boot on when they went through warm-up. So, but getting him back late, that's going to be another thing that you've got to integrate that into a team that has been playing without someone that is much, much faster than anybody out there.
I think
Tronic's still with us. Oh, we lost him. All right.
Disappeared. I'm not sure where he went.
That's all right. We lost him. That's okay. Hey, we got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio anyway. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com. We're back with more Jim Coyle and Dustin Schutte right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for
how has he been a leader? I don't know where that comes from.
Why do you hate Miller Kopp so much?
The amount of hatred that people have for players just drives me nuts.
First of all, stop using that word. That's a horrible word to use.
That's fair.
I question. My job is to question. That's what I do. I see things and I question it.
And I know, but it's been a very universal theme, not just for you, but for just
there's a reason for that, because there's a reason for that. There is a reason to question it. He doesn't. That's why I asked. Well, what does he bring? It's not defense, and it hasn't been offense. So
TikTok, right?
unless you're a point guard, there ain't a whole lot else. He's not rebounding. He doesn't get assists. What?
Floor spacing.
He takes minutes. The only stat he gets are minutes.
Is this his last season, or does he have one more year of eligibility?
This is it. No more TikToks.
I think he brings floor spacing because they've talked about they don't leave him open, so it opens things up.
Well, if they do stick with him, that would be fine, but he's going to have to start hitting some shots before 8 minutes left in the game.
They're going to have to start running some stuff for him to hit some shots.
No, they don't, damn it. He's 6'7". Run your ass off and get a shot. There's so many times where he can have a shot and he's like, jump, take the shot. Take it. You're 6'7".
And then
you've got to be aggressive.
And then people will complain that he's taking bad shots.
If he misses,
so
hit the shot.
He can't win for losing.
Shot. Hit the shot. Take a shot and hit him. Be the guy.
He's shooting what, 40%? What's his percentage?
Yes, on a small scale.
Okay. Would you rather him shoot 28% on a large scale?
No, he needs to shoot more shots. He needs to put more shots up.
This is so irritating to me.
He needs to put more. I'm not saying he needs to put up 12 a game, but he needs to get up 5 to 6 shots a game.
So then run something for him. He cannot create his own shot. I don't know why people think this is possible.
Then why is he on the floor?
That's the question for Mike Woodson. That's the question for Mike Woodson.
He's not providing great defense, and he can't create offense.
10 seconds. Here we go.
Offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing, Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Tuesday. Thanks a lot for joining us as always. We appreciate you immensely. Brought to you by our good friends from Feast Market and Cellar, part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Make sure you go there, sign up for the Wow Club, start earning Wow rewards today to great places like Feast that has an incredible selection of wines, gourmet sandwiches, food. The food is their brunch is off the chain. It was by there Sunday, couldn't get in. You almost have to have a reservation to get in for brunch at Feast, located right next door to Southern Stone Restaurant on Patterson and Rogers. Boy, we were having a great discussion in the break, but I'm not going to continue it about Miller Kopp.
Good idea. Although people seem to be on your side about it, so there you go.
Well, it's
big victory for Jim.
No,
which is fine. I will take the other side of this.
I'm just saying he needs to get up 5 to 6 shots a game. That's not a lot, but that's enough. You talk about keeping the defense honest. How the hell are you keeping the defense honest when you don't take a shot until there's 8 minutes left in the game?
Well, they're not coming off of him, so clearly it's working.
Is it? Ask the teams that have lost. How's that strategy working?
They're on a 5-game winning streak. They've pummeled pretty much every team they've played.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Ask the teams on the other side how that's working out for them, because Miller Kopp is not the guy who was killing them.
Okay, but if they come off of him and he's open, that will open up more shots.
If.
Okay. I don't know what you want me to say that. It's a big if. Either you're gonna I mean,
Five Left says, if he were 6'7", and you're not directly in my face, I'm busting your head. Hey, hell yes. That's what I'm saying. You're 6'7", man. Have the confidence to take a jump shot with a guy on you. I don't even care. Have that confidence.
I don't disagree with that. But clearly,
and Forrest, I don't disagree, and I don't disagree with Forrest here, and which goes along with you. That he believes Kopp is playing the role he's being asked to play.
Correct. This is why, to me, it's more on the coaching staff than it is on Miller Kopp.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. The ball is definitely going to Trace Jackson Davis, without question, and Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to have a big say in that as well, as he should. And now we've seen Trey Galloway become someone who hunts scoring somewhat, and it has been great. That is what's made this team what it is today. And that's why I said what I said about the injuries, because if Xavier doesn't get hurt, Trey Galloway does not play the minutes he's playing.
Right.
He does not get the experience that he's getting. He does not garner the confidence that he's garnered in shooting with the games that he's had. That does not happen. And not only is that good for this year, that's good for next year's team, because he's going to be here. Right. Xavier won't be, and we don't know who else will be. But he's going to be here next year. That's going to go miles for him, but it helps them this year, right now.
Right.
That's why they're on this 5-game winning streak, because all those guys have stepped up. I've said it a long time ago. It cannot be Trace and Jalen Hood-Schifino. Every game, either Jordan Geronimo, Tamar Bates, Trey Galloway, and I'd throw Miller Kopp in there, but it really hasn't, from an offensive standpoint, it just really hasn't been him. But somebody has to step up to help them. It has to be 3 guys. 2 guys are not winning games.
Trace Jackson Davis did his best job in that Minnesota game.
Well, yes, he did, but they're not going to get to play a team like Minnesota,
right,
very often, unless you're playing Minnesota. So, but I think that it's helped immensely for them. And you know what?
Well, it could have gone one of 2 ways. And we talked about this. Now, I was pretty critical of Indiana when they were struggling and they were in that 1-4 start. But the other part of it that I said was, and people tend to forget that I did say this, that sometimes it takes a while for your team to gel, especially when you're dealing with injuries, to get that chemistry just right, because you have to change the rotations, you have to change what you're doing schematically or whatever the case might be. This team is now gelling, and they found something they had that players only meeting, which obviously helped. They found something on the defensive end in that Wisconsin game. And those 2 things have carried over. And it's like we've talked all week, defense travels. And so that's why going into this game, I think that I don't care whether Indiana's favored or not. I do put that they should win this game on the road against Maryland, because I think they're a better basketball team. And if you play as well defensively, Maryland doesn't have anybody that's going to be able to stop Trace Jackson Davis, I don't think. If he plays the same way he's played these last 5 games, 4 double-doubles, I'm not saying Indiana's going to win it easily, but they have a good shot to win this game and head into the Purdue game with a 6-game winning streak and a chance to upset the number 1 team.
Which would be nice. Sid says Kopp does a lot more than scoring. And I've asked the question again, and I'll ask the same thing. Well, tell me what it is. It's not assists. It's not rebounds. It's not defense. So please tell me what it is. There are only so many things you could do. And I've just listed most of which that he doesn't. But anyway, and I'm not disagreeing that, where did I see? Andy says they aren't coming off of him. He's doing his job. Scheme is what you should question, not necessarily Miller. There's probably truth to that. I think it's a combination of both, to be honest with you. They are not running plays for him. I will give you that. He's not the guy, because he doesn't want to be the guy, though. He hasn't shown that he wants to be the guy. You have to have the mentality of being the guy, of wanting to be the guy, to be part of being the guy. He doesn't. That's not him.
But he's not. He doesn't have to be the guy. Why does he have to be? You got Jalen Hood-Schifino, you got Trace Jackson Davis, and
because that's what wins national championships. That's what gets you to the Final Four.
This team is not winning a national championship, so get that
exactly because of what I'm saying. They don't have guys doing what I'm talking about. That's what it takes to get there.
No, so here's the thing. This is what I legitimately ask. People in our comments continually ask or say, "I want to see Jalen Hood-Schifino. I want to see Miller Kopp shoot over people." Okay. What happens if he shoots 4 shots? All of them are terrible shots because he shoots over somebody. Would you rather that, or would you rather him make a smart decision?
No, then that would show me that should show everybody. Okay,
but sometimes what you need is a smart player to understand his role, right?
Okay, tell me, what is his role?
I don't know, but what he's been asked to do is what he's doing.
That's the problem.
Not Miller Kopp. That's Mike Woodson. That's the coaching staff.
No, but I'm saying the problem is this late, I can tell you what everybody else's role on this team is. I can tell you what everybody's role on this team is, except for his. Why is that? Because we can't tell what the hell he's doing. I'm sure he's a great person. This is not personal. Not personal at all. So please don't think that.
What if his role is to take care of the basketball, to be
that's not his role. Guy? That's not his role to take care of the basketball.
Do we know his turnover ratio? I legitimately don't.
I don't either.
Okay.
But he doesn't have the ball that often. So
he spaces the floor. It opens things up for other guys. He doesn't turn it over. He makes smart decisions. He's not going to go out there and he's not a guy that's going to go out there and heat check. He's not a guy that's going to go out there and take bad shots, make bad decisions. You need those guys on the floor. I'm not telling you whether or not he should be the starter. I'm not telling you he should get 25 minutes. I'm just saying at times you need those guys on the floor to just not turn the basketball over, to space the floor. I don't care whether he scores 2 points or 22 points. If Indiana wins by 15 points, like they have been these past 5 games, what the hell does it matter? Clearly it's working. So why does his role need to change as to what it is? They've got something figured out for him, and they are winning basketball games. That's all that matters. Don't ask him to do something that he's not going to do that could force this team to spiral out of control.
John, are you telling us we have to take a break?
We do. We need to hit our last one.
Let's do her. We've got lots more coming up here on a lively, lively day here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Hope you're having fun. Brought to you by our good friends from Metalworks Brewing Company, also a part of the Endeavor Hospitality Wow Club. Make sure you go there and sign up and start earning wow rewards today to great places like Metalworks Brewing Company, who you can also find their beers in all of the Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Metalworks is their creation of great metal art, craft beer, and being a part of the community. Located just off the square in Bloomington. Stop by Metalworks Brewing. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Boy, that was fun.
I think too many people want Miller Kopp to be Nick Zeisloft. I think that's part of the problem. They want him to be Nick Zeisloft.
Who's JS is what I want to know.
I think some people think my name is Justin.
Oh,
which is fine. It's not the worst. It's not the worst thing I've been called.
Yeah, that could either be.
He corrected it down here. DS.
DS. That could supposed to be DS or JC.
No, he says DS. He corrected it, so it's me.
There you go.
Bam.
Here we go. Steven Overdorf says he is Nick Zeisloft. I feel like Zeisloft was way more productive than him, but
Nick Zeisloft was more productive standing backwards.
Oh,
I loved his shot. I don't know what it was.
Nick Zeisloft was a deadly 3-point shooter, brother. But he would take the shots.
What's hilarious is
he says Zeisloft was pure.
We've been talking about this for 3 weeks, and it's still as heated as it's ever been, this topic.
Here's what's going to happen. Dustin, when you do Shooty shout-outs tomorrow, you're hoping that you can come in and say that Miller Kopp hit 5 or 6 threes tonight.
But that's not...
You know what? That's something that they will need on the road. They'll need something different.
Did they need it in the Illinois game?
No.
Did they need it in the Minnesota game? Well,
Illinois,
actually, they probably did need it in the Minnesota game. That's
Illinois. Illinois is not Maryland. These are different teams. Completely different teams, different styles. how you attack a team. Yeah.
Somebody had a great
Maryland
comment. Hold on. I'm going to scroll up. You want me to save this for when we come back? Somebody had a great comment. It's about Purdue being number one.
Force? Oh, Purdue.
No,
okay.
it's from Andy Stump. I'm going to bring this up when we come back.
Sure,
because it makes me want to argue more with Jim.
You'll have about 5 minutes left when we come back to wrap up.
Good. Be nice and heated.
Miller, Jamie Howie says Miller has the most talk time of any IU player of all time. That's actually pretty funny.
It is funny. Not true on here. He has just guarded it here of late. But it's just been a great. Oh, it has not been 3 weeks.
I think he's right.
I bet money it's been 3 weeks. We talk about it every time.
It feels
every
like
week.
We do.
Well, all right. This is the last day.
No, I'm calling it right now. He's going to hit at least 4 3-pointers tonight. At least 4.
I'm going to wear a Miller.
I would not be surprised. I guarantee I won't be surprised.
He's going to be 4 for 5 because you say he needs to take 5 shots. He's going to be 4 for 5, and he's going to hit a couple free. I'm going to say he's 17 points tonight.
They're going to sag off of him.
Well, that wouldn't be right. That'd be 14 points. Excuse me.
There you
with
go.
2 free throws. Here we go.
Southern Charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. I hope you're having a great day. That your week has started off well. It's Tuesday, the last day of January, as we get ready to head into tomorrow, the month-long celebration of Jim's birthday. We can't wait. When we last left, we were having a lively conversation, and but this comment, Andy says, Purdue is number one. They have 1 to 2 guys. Role definition and playing that role is more important than having a roster full of the guys. Well, that can be true, dependent upon how that your team is built and works. Purdue is built just like that. That's how Indiana used to be back under Bob Knight. It's exactly how Indiana was under Bob Knight. This is not that kind of team. Purdue is close to that. Purdue is very close to that style, although they don't have near the movement that IU did. But that's because they've got a 7'4" immovable object in the middle that does not foul people, and people are just had trouble stopping. And that's going to be an interesting matchup. Seeing him trying to guard Trace Jackson Davis, though, because he can't keep up with him.
But wouldn't you say, if Indiana was at full strength with Xavier Johnson, wouldn't you say they have 1 or 2 of the guys? They would have Trace Jackson Davis and Xavier Johnson, and then the rest are supposed to be role players, right?
Well, they're supposed to be the guys, but to be the guy, you have to earn that status.
Well, has Trace Jackson Davis not earned? What are we talking about?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm saying if Xavier Johnson,
guy on the team,
right? But I'm saying if Xavier Johnson, if all things, because Indiana came into the season, you can't account for injuries. I mean, you can, but in this sense, those were the 2 guys. Those were the 2 alpha dogs, alpha males, whatever you want to call it. Those were going to be the guys for this team that made this team go inside out. Trace Jackson Davis.
X is the only.
He was kind of a. He was kind of
the only alpha. X is really the only alpha. Trace Jackson Davis is not an alpha dog. I'm sorry. Nope. I will not give him that title. Jeez. He's not.
What? How is he not? What are we talking about?
Not in my opinion.
Okay, so why? I'm interested now. We, of course, this happens.
We don't have enough time. Yeah, we don't have time.
This dude is as
the good
he has
thing
played.
Is there's always tomorrow.
There is. I just want to point this out. He has been as dominant these last 5 games as anybody in the country. As dominant.
Alpha dog.
Okay. We'll continue that
in of itself does not make you an alpha dog.
Okay. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
It's going to be fun. Hey, it's been a fun, lively day, and that's why we love our friend Dustin. It always makes it a much funner day. But it could not be as fun without you guys. But also shout out to Mike DeCourcy, of course, from the Big Ten Network and the Sporting News, as always, as he is with us each and every Tuesday. Make sure you check out everything of his. And, of course, his bracketology is at CBB on Fox. And you can catch him each Sunday night on Big Ten Network with Big Ten and Beyond, which is a great, great wrap-up show. So, and what's up next for you, Schutte Sports?
I'll be here again tomorrow. That's what's up next for me.
Can't wait. Look at that. We got Jamie's fired up. He's got to come back tomorrow for more. Heck yeah. Y'all got to come back tomorrow for more because Indiana tonight taking on the Maryland Terrapins. Fear the Turtle. Also, we forgot to mention, the Hoosier cast returns tonight with Charlie Miller, and he has a guest, Robbie Eggers. He's going to have a different IU guest each time. So make sure we'll get that out to you guys, but forgot to even mention that. So thanks a lot for everybody. Cannot tell you how much fun it was today. Without you, we have no reason to be here. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.